Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Autodesk Virtual Academy, brought to you by KETIV Technologies. I'm Nigel Mbayek, the voice in the sky here today. And today I'm joined by Brian Munkelpunsak. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, Brian.
Yep, perfect.
Awesome. Longest last name at the company. You can call him Brian. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So Brian is another one of the customer success managers here at KETIV Technologies who works closely with Streamline customers. And one of the things that Brian's been working on with a lot of his Streamline customers is the movement of their data through the organization and even outside of the organization. And we felt that by sharing that information with a couple of customers, we learned that it's probably best to be shared with the masses, right? It's something that a lot of people can benefit from. It alleviates a lot of the traditional issues of working in a CAD environment with people like vendors, customers, etc. And so we want to be able to share that with you guys today. And that's why we're going to go over some of the Project Sync functionality within Vault Professional. Today we're going to be going over Project Sync. Like I just said, it is a Vault Pro function only. So to answer that question, I know that's going to come through. Can I do this in Vault Basic? No, it is a Vault Pro function only. And it allows the connectivity between some of your Vault data and the cloud. And we'll use cloud in quotations there. I know you can't see me making air quotes. But we're talking about the repository in the cloud that Autodesk provides via either Fusion Team or BIM 360. So with that, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them into the chat panel at any time or the questions panel. I know there is both. And then we should be good to go. So Brian, I'll let you go ahead and take it away. Let's
appreciate it.
Let's get going here.
Thank you, Nigel. So, like Nigel was saying, we had like a couple customers getting into this workflow, but now later down the line, more and more of the masses is beginning to utilize this workflow. So, might as well make a webinar just educating everyone about it. So far, we have a lot of customers who, have a Vault client and server and have Vault data running within their network. But what happens if they want to share this data with customers, suppliers, contract design engineers, essentially collaborators that they want to keep outside of their network, but still be able to access some of the intellectual data? And that's the core reason for this workflow, is so you can connect the two without giving up the proprietary securities of your network. And we can do that using Vault Professional, like Nigel was mentioning, 2019 or 2020, because it has Project Sync, as well as Fusion Team. Now, what is Fusion Team? Fusion Team is a cloud-based collaboration tool that allows you to essentially work with your team on the cloud by uploading and downloading any major file type you can think of, whether it's Word docs, PowerPoints, Excels, part files, assembly files, step files, and it's primarily made for CAD data. So if you can imagine Dropbox, but with higher CAD functionality inside of it, or not CAD functionality, model viewing functionality inside of it.
Yep, and the other key difference too, and Brian, I'll stop you real quick, between something like this and Box and Dropbox and network drives and stuff like that, is Fusion Team and its co-part on the BIM side are CAD aware. And what I mean by that is they understand that your CAD files aren't standalone files. So for example, a Word document, right? That's a standalone file, right? There's nothing attached to it. There's no children or parents per se. As opposed to something like an assembly file or a IDW from Inventor, there are numerous children and numerous parents to those files, right? There's links between the part files and the assembly. So on and so forth. And so those assemblies need to understand where those part files lie to be able to pick up the information to open it. Fusion Team is intelligent enough to understand that there are links between those files. So they're going to make sure, okay, we need to understand that these files need to be connected with one another. That would be a super key differentiator between something like this and regular Box, Dropbox, etc., or Google Drive. I know a lot of people are using that. And then the other key thing is, like, if you want to, say, for example, move a file within Fusion Team you can certainly do so, and it'll understand that, hey, these links need to update because the location of the file is different. As opposed to if you just move a file in the network drive to a different folder, the file path is completely different, but it doesn't know that it needs to update the references and all of the other assemblies, parts, drawings, etc. You're going to open Inventor, and it's going to say, hey, I can't find this file. Would you like to resolve this link? That's something that you won't get when you're using something like Fusion Team or Vault to be able to store your data. So
it has CAD in its mind.
Absolutely.
So the tools we'll be using today, Vault Professional. The prerequisites are you want to have a set up Vault Pro 2019 or 2020 running, and also a job processor. And that's one of the reasons why we want to use Vault Professional, is because it has a job processor, which is essentially a tool that you're able to download per Vault client seat that you have onto your computer or onto another computer that's supported. And you're able to essentially have this outsource your computing power for things like DWF generation or PDF automation, or something like Project Sync here, where you can connect your Vault data to the Fusion Team Cloud. And there's more to the job processor. I just want to show you guys that that's one of the prerequisites we're going to need in order to get this Project Sync to work. The other two are is having a seat of Fusion Team and making sure your Fusion Team hub is set up, as well as a downloaded desktop connector. So this comes with Fusion Team. You can download it, and it essentially connects your Fusion Team and creates a mirrored version of it onto your local machine. And then that connection will be used with Vault Professional's Project Synced later down the line here. And I also included Fusion 360 on the right here, because I wanted to just make sure that we don't get any confusion between the CAD CAM cloud tool called Fusion 360 and the collaboration cloud tool called Fusion Team that we were discussing earlier.
Absolutely, and I'll clarify a couple of things. I know there's going to be questions all about this. Fusion Team and A360 and BIM 360, all separate things. Fusion Team and BIM 360 are both children of what was originally like A360 Team, which is an extension of base A360. Every customer has A360 on the current subscription. That's just a personal location where you can store your data. A360 is not sufficient for what we're going to be doing. You need an actual seat of Fusion Team or BIM 360, and those are sold separately from like your collections and your Vault licenses.
So just a reminder to ask those questions. We'll be monitoring the chat room. First, we'll go ahead and go into Fusion Team. And this is essentially what you and the collaborator or the customer would be seeing. You would see all your projects here. You can create your own projects. For example, I have these named after like customers, and I shared just that project with them, so they're not seeing the rest of my projects. So I keep everything else safe. If I go into the project here, we can go over here to the right and see that you can invite your collaborators as either a viewer, which allows them to only create comments and markups on the files you're sharing with them, or you can invite them as an editor, which allows them to download the file, edit the file, and upload a new version of that file, as well as comments and markups. And the thing about uploading a file that they've edited is that they don't have to it doesn't actually replace the existing file. It just adds a new version on top of it. So you never lose the original file. So if you ever need to recall or go back to the original file, you can totally do that just from the smart data management here in Fusion Team.
Yep, and there are AVAs all about Fusion Team and BIM 360 Team specifically. So if you want to learn a lot about how these tools work specifically, independent of a Vault workflow, excuse me, take a look at those AVAs. They exist.
Sounds good. And yeah, here are multiple different file types that are in here. Like I was mentioning earlier, you can go into one of these parts or assemblies, and the neat thing about this is you don't need a a third-party software, or you don't need Inventor, for example, downloaded in order to view a 3D rotatable view of the models loaded into this. So customers take advantage of this. They have an app on their phone for Fusion Team. They have an app on their tablets that they're able to take to the shop floor to be able to share, or with the manufacturers and things like that, the ability to, it's more impactful to view something that's 3D rotatable rather than a 2D piece of paper that can be scattered and lost around the shop floor. And of course, you have your viewing tools, your markup tools. I won't go too far into this here, since there's the AVA, like Nigel mentioned, on it, but you can essentially reply to comments that have been made on this tool. Everything is managed inside here, including communications. So you don't need to email each other, or all the emails are quote unquote can be tracked here inside the comments. And here are the different versions I was referring to. There's just one version of this, but as more ones get created, they'll just create more versions that you can just go ahead and click to access. And one more thing before we move forward here, I want to show you guys, if, for example, if you're an engineering manager and you have a seat of Fusion Team, if you want to invite your 5 different colleagues to Fusion Team, you can do so here. They would only need a seat if they're a team admin. They wouldn't need seats if they're a member or a project contributor. Project contributor allows them to only edit files within the project. Team members allows them to create projects, but not necessarily be able to manage members and things like that, like an admin would. So you can essentially get away with just one seat of Fusion Team and have like 5 different members and like 20 different projects essentially tied to it. So in order to get the project sync going, you're going to want to make sure you have the desktop connector downloaded for Fusion Team. This essentially, like I mentioned earlier, mirrors, gives you a local mirror of what you're seeing inside Fusion Team. So I have it right here. It's called Fusion 360 because there was also a Fusion 360 desktop connector, mind you. But here's the KETIV Fusion Team hub that we were looking at. And then here are all the different projects I have. I can go ahead and see that all the files here are mirroring the ones in Fusion Team. And you need to have this set up before we do project synced here. So now we can go ahead and go to our Vault. And there are 2 things that you want to have set up for this. Make sure Vault's running, which it is. And then the other one is a job processor. And this can be downloaded via the Vault client download. And to make sure that you have the job processor, you can just type in, do a Windows search for job, and there it is right there. And it's telling me it's already running, and you can tell that it's running if it's here in one of your desktop local icons. And mine's just idle right now, but it's ready to go. Once I create a job for it, I'll start running that once it takes a look there. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and look at the mapping from Vault to Fusion Team. If you go here to Tools, Admin, Vault Settings, Collaborate, Configure, and here are all the mappings that I have right now, associating one folder in Vault to one folder in Fusion Team. I'll go ahead and create a new one, and I can name this, I'll just give it a 3 there at the end because I already have a 1 and 2, so new definition 3. The Vault folder, I'll go ahead and choose the folder that we're working with inside of Vault to pull from. The Cloud folder, so since we are connected to the cloud, it recognizes my Fusion Team. And then I could point to a folder that I have on there. Let's see, I have a demo folder here that I'll point to. And then now we'll go ahead and start adding these paths. So we'll go ahead and select the same folder here on the Vault side. And now we have three different options. We have either the ability to do a one-way street from Fusion or from Vault to Fusion Team. We can go from Fusion Team to Vault, or we can have it be bidirectional where it can go both ways. We can make this a daily act where every day, maybe at like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., or 9 p.m., it can sync what you have from Vault or Fusion Team to each other, or you can make it based off hours, whether you want to do it every other day or once a week, or you can set it to none. And just if you set it to none, it'll only be a manual sync ability as long as you have these checked over here. Now, if we go over here to filter, customers use this to maybe only send PDF files, for instance, to Fusion Team. If you go over here to file extension, contains, we could do PDF. We can add that filter. And now if we do a preview of this filter, it shows us the only PDF file in that folder that we selected. That's the only thing that would be sent to Fusion Team if I were to sync this. But if I remove this filter and do a preview, it'll show everything in that folder because there's no filter for it. I'll go ahead and apply that. And now let's go ahead and load something into Fusion Team. So the neat thing about what Nigel was talking about earlier is that it's cognizant of the related files to it. For example, assembly files, it understands that there's part files that make up the assembly file, as well as sub-assemblies. So all I'm going to select is this top-level assembly file. I'm going to hit Upload to Cloud Drive, select the mapping that we just set up, hit Upload, and notice nothing happens. That's because the job processor every once in a while takes a look at the job. So right now it's idle because it's not. It takes a look every once in a while. It doesn't take a look all the time. So what I'm gonna do is force it to run the job by pausing and resuming it. Now it's going to start loading these files into Fusion Team. And if we hop over here to Fusion Team, go into the project, and then the folder that we have, we're gonna have to wait about 30 seconds or so. And if I refresh the page here, we should start seeing these files come into this folder here. So there's 4 of them. And notice how these are the part files associated to just that one assembly file that I selected to load. And then there's the rest of them there. And if I take a look at this, you can see that these are all populating in and they're all associated to each other. And then we can take a look at a 3D view of the assembly file. So like I mentioned, with the assembly file inside of Fusion Team, we can explode it. And of course, you have the same tools as before down below there. And if you want to, let's go ahead and load just a part so we can edit it in Fusion, or on the, let's say you're working with a contract design engineer and you want them to edit something or make something for you and then load it back into Fusion Team. So I have this example rectangular prism here that I'll upload to Fusion Team. Go ahead and force the job processor to run that immediately. Then after a few seconds, it'll be populated here. And you don't have to use Fusion Team for just the project sync. You can use it for your own personal use of accessing files, hopping from different computers without having to carry around a thumb drive, for example. So there's the rectangular prism here. I can go ahead and edit this locally here. So it could be on this could be, I could be like the contract design engineer now, who got this file, needed to make some changes to it, and then load it in afterwards. So I'll just go ahead and create just something obvious that shows that I've made some changes to it. And then I'm going to do a save as to show you guys that it's going to be saving. I have a numbering scheme set up here that I'll skip. It's going to be saving to the mirrored location for the desktop connector inside of Fusion Team here. And I'll go ahead and replace that. And yeah, it's not, because you can just go ahead and say yes to that box right there. So now we take a look inside of Fusion Team. It's going to go ahead and update the version number here with that file once it's done loading. So we'll give it a moment here. And then once that's done, we can send it back into Vault so then they can have the updated version of it. There's version 2. So now we have 2 and 1. There was the original file. And then there is the little knob that I created locally here. So now if you go back inside of Vault, I can do a download from Cloud Drive, which allows me to, if I choose that same mapping, go look into my Fusion Team files, select the rectangular prism, and download it. Again, we want to make sure the job processor go ahead and runs it. Now let's do a quick refresh here. So now we can see that version number 2 came in. And this symbol just means that I need to do a get to make sure this is going to be on my local drive as well, and my local workspace. And now we have the edited part that was edited outside of Vault on Fusion, or that was uploaded to Fusion Team. Now it's here downloaded from Vault, or from Fusion Team to Vault into my network, quote unquote, here. All right. So just to recap, this is only going to be available in Vault Professional 2019-2020, which is the project synced. You can do either a manual or automated cloud synchronization, whether you want to do it daily, every other day, bi-weekly, etc. You can control your users or the collaborators, whether you want them to be able to just only view and comment and mark up the model, or they have the ability to download, edit, and re-upload the model. And lastly, you have that bi-directional workflow, whether you can send it from Vault to Fusion Team to Vault, or both. So that's all I had for you guys today. Let's see what questions were in the chat room in the meantime.
Yeah, it's super easy to set up. There's a full-blown FAQ on how to set this all up on the Autodesk webpage. It's probably like a page and a half long. Fairly simple. So if you want to try it out, I know that some people are allocated Fusion Team. There's a 30-day trial too for Fusion Team. If something you want to try out, certainly do so. And just follow the FAQ to connect it to your Vault Pro, create a test folder to be able to do it, and play around with the functionality and see if it's something that that works for you. Every seat of Fusion Team, I believe, is something like $125 a year.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's somewhere around there. So it might not be exactly 125. It's close.
There it is right there.
Boom. Was I right?
Yes, you were.
Ah, yes. So it's $125 a year per seat of Fusion Team and $15 a month if you want to go monthly. And then, like I said, there's a 30-day trial. So feel free to use the trial up. Make sure that it does fulfill the needs that your organization does have. And go for it. It looks like Brian's a little excited based on his use of excessive capitals and exclamation points. So Brian, I'm glad that this is something that excites you there. With that, I'll go ahead and end today. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us for this AVA. We'll see you again here next week to talk about some frame generator improvements in 2020 with one of our colleagues, Jeff Perez. Really excited for that session.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Take care, guys.